If you were over 65 and you now have to use your arms and push off the armrests just to get yourself up out of a chair, your body is actively eating its own muscle tissue. And the terrifying truth that absolutely nobody is telling you? That healthy, light diet you are forcing yourself to eat every single day. The small, dry salads, the fat-free yogurt, the plain oatmeal, and the tiny, restrictive portions of skinless chicken breast is exactly what is speeding up your journey to a wheelchair. You are likely doing exactly what the magazine covers, the standard health guidelines, and the famous food pyramids of the 1980s and 90s told you to do. You are putting in the grueling effort. You are depriving yourself of flavor and satisfaction. You are eating light because you don't want to be a burden on your family. But what if I told you that the very dietary habits you firmly believe are protecting your heart and extending your lifespan are actually accelerating your muscle loss, destroying your immune system, and dramatically increasing your risk of a devastating, life-altering fall? I am Dr. Andrew Morgan. As an orthopedic surgeon with nearly 3 decades of clinical experience, I operate on thousands of seniors who did everything right with their diet, yet still ended up falling, shattering their hips, and losing their independence permanently. Today, I am going to expose the massive medical lie about eating light as you age. I am going to show you exactly how your current diet is destroying your body from the inside out. Before we dive into the hard science, I need you to do something for me. Go down to the comments right now and tell me your age, where you are watching from, and what physical activity you have given up in the last 5 years because you felt too weak to do it. I read every single comment, and your experiences drive the research we share on this channel. 1:30 to 4 o'clock, The Great Dietary Deception and Kidney Myth. To understand why your body is failing you, we have to look at the brainwashing of the last 40 years. If you are in your 60s, 70s, or 80s today, you were heavily influenced by the dietary guidelines that swept the nation in the 1980s. You were taught that heavy proteins were the ultimate enemies of cardiovascular health. You were taught to fear red meat, throw away egg yolks, and base your nutritional intake on complex carbohydrates and tiny amounts of protein. That advice might have been appropriate for a highly active 30-year-old with a raging metabolism. But applying that exact same dietary framework to a 75-year-old body is not just slightly incorrect. It is biological malpractice. When you cross the threshold of 60 years old, your physiological needs completely invert. Yet, standard medical advice completely ignores this shift. We still have well-meaning doctors telling their elderly patients to eat less meat, eat lighter meals, and cut back on protein to protect your kidneys. Let us address this destructive piece of dietary advice head-on. The belief that digesting high amounts of protein puts unnecessary stress on aging kidneys is a myth rooted in severely flawed, outdated studies conducted on patients who already had advanced, end-stage renal failure. From a modern gerontological standpoint, unless you have pre-existing, diagnosed chronic kidney disease, eating a high-protein diet does absolutely zero damage to healthy aging kidneys. In fact, a high-protein diet actually improves your kidney's glomerular filtration rate by keeping the blood vessels supplying the kidneys strong and pliable. 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock sarcopenia and type 2 muscle fiber loss. When you intentionally restrict your protein because you think it's healthier, you are literally starving your musculoskeletal system. This starvation directly accelerates a silent, progressive disease called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia simply translates to the age-related loss of skeletal muscle mass and functional strength. Human muscles are primarily made up of 2 types of fibers, type I slow twitch for endurance and type 2 fast twitch for power and speed. Type 2 fibers are the muscles that instantly fire and catch you when you trip over a rug, preventing your head from hitting the coffee table. Sarcopenia disproportionately attacks and destroys your type 2 fast twitch muscle fibers. When you are eating your light diet of oatmeal and salads, your body does not have the raw materials to sustain these power fibers. They begin to shrink, wither, and die off. This is precisely why so many seniors can walk slowly for 2 miles on a flat path, but cannot rapidly push themselves up from a low toilet seat or catch their balance when they stumble on a stair. Your skeletal muscle is not just for movement. It acts as a massive metabolic sponge that regulates your blood sugar. It houses your immune system's amino acid reserves. When you get sick with pneumonia, your immune system extracts amino acids directly from your muscle tissue to build antibodies. If you have no muscle mass because you've been eating light for 10 years, your immune system has no ammunition. You don't just become weak, you become immunologically defenseless. 7 o'clock to 9:30, the cellular blockade, anabolic resistance. But why does this happen so aggressively after 60? The answer lies in a deeply misunderstood biological condition called anabolic resistance. When you consume protein, your digestive system breaks it down into microscopic building blocks called amino acids. These amino acids travel to your muscle cells, insert themselves into the cellular locks, and turn on a genetic switch called the mTOR pathway. The mTOR pathway is the master regulator of muscle synthesis. When you were 30, your mTOR pathway was incredibly sensitive. A small piece of chicken was enough to flip that switch. But as you age, the locks on your muscle cells become rusty. They become heavily resistant to the amino acid signals. At 70 years old, that same 3-ounce piece of chicken barely registers in your cells. To flip the mTOR switch in an aging body, you need a massive, concentrated dose of a specific amino acid called leucine. Leucine is the spark plug for muscle synthesis, and it is found in high concentrations almost exclusively in dense animal proteins like beef, eggs, whey, and fish. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Physiology completely shattered the low-protein myth, demonstrating that older adults actually require up to 50% to 70% more daily protein than younger adults just to maintain their existing muscle mass. If you are not actively consuming massive doses of protein at every single meal, your body enters a state of panic and will literally cannibalize its own muscle tissue to survive. 9:30 to 12:30 patient case study, Robert's near-fatal decline. I want to tell you about a patient named Robert. Robert was 74 years old, a retired structural engineer. For 15 years, his breakfast consisted of plain oatmeal. His lunch was a mixed greens salad. His dinner was a tiny piece of baked white fish. His blood work looked clean. Yet, Robert came into my orthopedic clinic leaning heavily on a cane. Over the past 18 months, Robert had experienced 3 terrifying falls. The last one happened in his garden. His leg simply gave out. He couldn't get out of his armchair without rocking back and forth to build momentum. He told me, "Dr. Morgan, I am doing everything right, but I feel like my body is simply dissolving away underneath me." I ordered a DEXA scan. His legs had lost nearly 40% of their functional type 2 muscle tissue. Robert had severe anabolic resistance, and his light diet was providing no leucine for his body to repair itself. We completely overhauled his diet. We introduced 3 whole eggs cooked in real butter for breakfast. We added a high-quality whey protein isolate shake to his afternoon routine to hit his leucine threshold. We made sure he was consuming a minimum of 40 grams of dense protein at every meal. Within 4 months, the transformation was miraculous. By overcoming his anabolic resistance with heavy doses of protein, his body finally rebuilt the type 2 muscle fibers. He walked into my office for his follow-up carrying his cane in the air. He was able to stand up from a chair without using his arms. He reclaimed his independence by eating significantly more of exactly what his biology demanded. 12:30. End the final protocol and call to action complete outro. You do not need less protein after 60. You desperately, fundamentally, and biologically need more. You are fighting an uphill battle against anabolic resistance, and the only weapon you have is the density of the food on your plate. If you want to protect your independence, you must adopt a new protocol starting tomorrow morning. You need to aim for a minimum of 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein at every meal. Your breakfast is the most critical meal of the day because your body has been fasting all night. Do not start your day with just toast and oatmeal. Start your day with eggs, Greek yogurt, or a protein supplement to immediately flip that mTOR switch and halt muscle breakdown. If this documentary opened your eyes today, and if you are tired of being told to eat like a bird while you lose your strength, I want you to go down to the comments right now and type the word wheel. Typing that word is a physical commitment to stop starving your muscles and start eating for strength and survival. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. We are building a massive movement of educated, empowered individuals who refuse to accept the outdated narrative of aging. In my next video, which is part 2 of this series, we are going to dive into something even more controversial. I am going to show you why the low-fat, low-cholesterol foods in your pantry are actively starving your brain, and why trying to reach a perfect BMI after 65 might be the most dangerous mistake you can make. You do not want to miss it. I am Dr. Andrew Morgan. Take control of your health today, and I will see you in the next one. If you are over 70 and you are actively starving yourself right now to lose 10 pounds and reach a healthy BMI, you need to stop immediately. Because the day you finally step on that scale and see that lower number is the exact same day you strip away the only biological armor protecting you from a fatal hip fracture. We have been sold a massive, generational lie about weight and aging. You have been repeatedly told by magazines, fitness gurus, and even well-meaning physicians that being thin after 65 means you are healthy. But the medical reality is brutal and undeniable. Intentionally losing weight in your 70s is actively shrinking your brain, destroying your immune reserves, and making your bones as fragile as glass. I am Dr. Andrew Morgan, an orthopedic surgeon with nearly 3 decades of clinical experience. In part 1 of this series, we uncovered how eating a light, low-protein diet is actively cannibalizing your muscle tissue. Today, we are going to look at the terrifying science of brain starvation and the obesity paradox. I am going to show you why the fat-free foods sitting in your kitchen right now are destroying your memory, and why carrying extra body weight is actually the only thing keeping you alive. Before we dive into this controversial science, I want to hear from you. Go to the comments and tell me your age, and tell me how many years you have spent actively trying to lower your cholesterol or lose those last 10 pounds. I read every comment, and it is time we expose the truth together. 1:30 to 5 o'clock, the low-fat illusion and brain starvation. Let us address the most dangerous dietary habit among seniors, the deeply ingrained, fear-based habit of eating a strict, low-fat diet. We currently have an entire generation of seniors who are absolutely terrified of dietary fat. You buy the skim milk, you choose the fat-free yogurt, you request egg whites only, and you avoid red meat and butter like poison. For 40 years, you have been told that systemic cholesterol is the ultimate enemy of longevity. But in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, this extreme fat and cholesterol restriction becomes a direct, profound threat to your neurological function. To understand why, we have to look at the microscopic biology of your central nervous system. Your brain is not a muscle. It is an organ composed of nearly 60% pure fat. The complex network of billions of neurons in your brain communicates through rapid electrical signals. These neurons are wrapped in protective, insulating sheaths called myelin. Think of myelin exactly like the thick rubber insulation around a copper electrical wire. If that rubber insulation wears away, the wire short circuits, sparks, and fails. This myelin insulation relies heavily on cholesterol and saturated dietary fats to maintain its physical integrity. Furthermore, your brain is filled with glial cells. These are the support cells of the brain, and they locally manufacture cholesterol because it is fundamentally vital for memory formation and neuroplasticity. When you severely restrict your fat intake, or when your systemic cholesterol drops too low in your senior years, your brain is literally starved of the raw biological materials it needs to repair itself. A fascinating, long-term epidemiological study conducted by the Mayo Clinic found that seniors who consumed a diet heavily skewed toward carbohydrates while strictly avoiding healthy fats had a nearly 90% higher risk of developing mild cognitive impairment and early-stage dementia compared to those who consumed much higher amounts of dietary fats. Without adequate fat and cholesterol, the myelin sheaths degrade. We are seeing a direct, undeniable correlation in the medical community between ultra-low cholesterol levels in the elderly and a severely increased risk of brain fog, severe memory loss, clinical depression, and Alzheimer's disease. It is time to stop fearing the avocado, the whole eggs with the yolks intact, the grass-fed butter, and the fatty fish. These are not guilty pleasures. They are mandatory neurological medicine. You are not protecting your heart by eating fat-free foods. You are simply starving your brain. 5 o'clock to 8:30, the weight loss trap and the obesity paradox. And now, we arrive at the ultimate illusion. The relentless, societal push for intentional weight loss to achieve a perfect body mass index, or BMI. If you are 75 years old and carrying an extra 15 or 20 pounds, you have almost certainly had a doctor tell you to go on a diet. As an orthopedic surgeon, I am going to tell you exactly why following that specific piece of advice could be a life-ending mistake. In the field of advanced geriatric medicine, there is a heavily documented phenomenon known as the obesity paradox. When you are 35 years old, carrying excess weight is generally associated with negative health outcomes. But human biology completely shifts as we age. Studies consistently and overwhelmingly show that for adults over the age of 65, being slightly overweight, specifically having a BMI between 25 and 29.9, is actually highly protective and correlates with the lowest mortality rates across the board. A massive meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society reviewed the mortality rates of millions of older adults. The seniors who were classified as normal weight or underweight had significantly higher mortality rates than those who were classified as overweight. Why does this biological paradox exist? First, it is a crucial nutritional and energetic reserve. Imagine an 80-year-old who contracts a severe case of pneumonia. Their metabolic rate skyrockets to fight the infection, but their appetite completely plummets. If that senior is very thin, their body will rapidly break down their vital organs and skeletal muscle for energy, often leading to a fatal cascade of organ failure. But the senior with an extra 15 pounds of fat has a built-in biological battery pack. Their body seamlessly taps into that stored fat for energy, allowing their immune system to fight the illness. Second, and this is where I see it every single day in the operating room, that extra weight provides vital physical cushioning. The leading cause of accidental death in seniors is complications from a fall. When a very thin senior falls, the kinetic impact goes directly into their fragile osteoporotic bones. When a senior with a bit of extra padding falls, that fat literally acts as a mechanical shock absorber for the hip bone. A hip fracture is often the beginning of the end of independent living. That extra 15 pounds of fat is quite literally your armor. 8:30 to 11:30 patient case study. Arthur's descent into frailty. I want to tell you about a patient of mine named Arthur. Arthur was 72 years old, and he was absolutely obsessed with achieving the perfect BMI of 22. He spent an entire year eating tiny portions of dry salads and fat-free vegetable soups to get his weight down. He succeeded. He lost 18 pounds. But he also lost his vitality, his cognitive sharpness, and his balance. Arthur came into my office complaining of constant, bone-deep fatigue. He was always freezing cold, wearing a heavy wool sweater in the middle of a warm July afternoon. And most terrifyingly, he had started stumbling when he walked his dog. His body was wasting away under the guise of getting healthy. When I evaluated him, his cholesterol was shockingly low, but his neurological reflexes were sluggish. His grip strength was that of a man 20 years older. We stopped his calorie restriction immediately. I physically took his BMI chart and threw it in the medical waste bin. We reintroduced 3 whole eggs cooked in real butter for breakfast. We added heavy cream to his morning coffee. We told him to eat fatty ribeye steaks. I explicitly gave him a medical prescription to gain back 15 pounds. Within 2 months, the transformation was staggering. His neurological brain fog completely lifted because his brain finally had the lipid fats it desperately needed to repair its myelin sheaths. His balance stabilized because his muscles were fueled and his energy skyrocketed. He took off the wool sweater. He stopped looking like a frail patient and started looking like a robust, resilient man. 11:30. End the ultimate conclusion complete outro. The biological rules change when you get older. Health after 60 is not about shrinking yourself to fit into a societal standard of thinness. It is not about deprivation, calorie counting, or eating tasteless, fat-free food. Health in your golden years is about building biological armor. It is about building physical strength, preserving your brain tissue with heavy, healthy fats, and maintaining the functional resilience you need to survive illnesses and falls. Your body desperately needs reserves. Your body needs density. If you have been punishing yourself with dry salads, skim milk, and constant, miserable dieting, it is time to stop. Nourish your body, feed your brain, protect your muscles. Allow yourself to carry the weight that your biology is begging for. If this documentary series has given you a new perspective on your health, and if you are ready to stop starving yourself and start building your biological armor, I want you to go down to the comments right now and type the word ARM-OR. Typing that word is a powerful, physical commitment to yourself and to this community that you are taking your independence back. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. We are building a massive movement of educated, empowered individuals who refuse to accept the outdated, dangerous, and frail narrative of aging. Share this video immediately with a friend, a sister, or a spouse who is still strictly following the diet rules of the 1990s. They desperately need to hear this science before it costs them their mobility and their mind. Be kind to your body, feed it exactly what it actually needs, and take absolute control of your health today. I am Dr. Andrew Morgan, and I will see you in the next video.